Hi, I'm Steve Wood, recovered alcoholic. Um, Welcome to the steps we took. Today we're looking at step two, and I wanted to just start off by talking about step two, the written step two. Because you go back to Bill's story, it says it's only a matter of being willing to believe in the power greater than myself. And that willingness is what's kind of left off the step on the wall. Because the step on the wall and on the formal step says, came to believe a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. I think Bill's kind of being very nice to say we need to find sanity. So if we need to find sanity, what are we? We're insane. And so the powerful word there is power. And that's just the ability to maybe even change the course of events, but it means from a spiritual perspective to have internal strength. And it comes from a Latin word which means to be able. So believe comes from an old German word, which means to hold something with trust. That's this is going to be true or real. You don't need proof to believe. And your beliefs are usually handed to you. Think of your beliefs that you've had your whole life and everything like that. I'm gonna move closer to make it good. Sorry. And they're usually handed to us. But the thing is we're making this we're looking at this and saying came to believe because we want to go beyond belief. We want to go to knowledge. And power greater than yourself means to have a power greater than the power we currently possess, which might mean none at all. Higher power, supreme being, God, whatever you want to call it. And another powerful word there is restore. Um, Before they used the term recovery, they used to use words like reconstruction and restore back in the 30s, especially the guys from the Emmanuel movement. But restore means to bring something back to its original condition. And then the sanity word, that means soundness of mind, whole, complete. So insanity must mean unsoundness of mind, not whole. It means missing something. Sanity doesn't get returned by simply choosing to believe in a power greater ourselves. If we could have sufficient power in step two, then would be a two-step program. And if you go over to page 84, and because I would be reading a lot, not a lot, but I don't have a whole hour. I mean, only a whole hour probably won't be a lot, but we agnostics, but which we agnostics on page 44. We're going to page 84 really quick. And we're going to be looking into action. And we just read, I just mentioned came to believe a power greater self restores to sanity. So the question is, when does that happen? If you go to page 84, on the bottom of the page, it says, we have ceased fighting anything or anyone, even alcohol. For by this time, now, sanity has returned. So we must do inventory, discuss it with another, do 6 and 7, make the amends, do step 10 repeatedly, and sanity gets returned. So basically, that's a lot of pages right there. In between that's 40 pages later from when we start, step 2 in we agnostics. So step 2 is it's like a street sign. It's a mirror of step 1. It's saying you need to do this. You're powerless, you need power. So let's go to page 45. Second paragraph, second sentence. I'll be jumping all over this paragraph because there's too much stuff to cover. So I did hopefully some bullet points. It says its main object, so the main object of this book, is to enable you to find a power find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. Now, in the fellowship, I hear people talk a lot about it. They word it in so many ways and they almost they act like we have to find God so we can go back, so we can go fix our stuff. or a power greater than ourselves, whatever you want to call it. It doesn't, if it does not say the man of this book is enable you to find a power greater than yourself, so you can solve your problem. That would be a self-help program. This is not self-help. Even though AA Big Books are in the self-help section of the library and bookstores, that's not the case. But it's the simple wording which will solve your problem or our problem, whatever, that make our program a spiritual program, not self-help. It's a spiritual solution program so we can receive the power we lack. When a person seeks a new life by using spiritual principles, one of the first questions that gets brought up is God. And what's interesting is, oh, God didn't answer my prayers, I don't need God, or this, that, or they just don't want to talk about it, or they want to talk all about it. And it can be a controversial word, but if you go through words like, creator 12 times in the book, Father, the light once, and so forth, great reality one time, so many words that have the word, it's 196 times that word is used in different formats. That's not counting words like he, him, and his that they use. So that's a lot of God talk. God's the nucleus of this program, and it's okay to talk about it. And that's the aspect of this, and I want to talk a little bit more about believing really quick, because I want to go beyond, I've lived on theories for so long. A theory is something you've never experienced. So anything you know in life comes from actual experience. Anything else is a theory, right? And the thing is, it's like we have this belief and we believe in things. So we hold something with trust. And this, the thing about it, do we make a decision on that? Yeah, of course we can. But there's no, if we do no action, we don't get results. Believing is similar to the theory. You have to experience God. You have not experienced God, I'm sorry. And it falls in the category of not knowing. But belief, I said earlier, is handed to us. What you're supposed to believe. Here's what you're supposed to believe. Here's how you're supposed to believe. If a believer were to honestly define their relationship with God, it would be deep admiration. They love God, but all they do is know about God. We want to go deeper. We want to take action, and we want to experience it. But I'm also want to talk about the word agnostic, and it's unsure, person unsure of the existence of God. So they're both, how do I want to say it? Uncertain claims by lack of knowledge. You haven't experienced it yet. It falls in the category of not knowing. But where we want to be is we want to be to reach the area of Gnostic, and that means knowing. And that means to go beyond a belief and have a spiritual understanding of knowing God as a result of some type of conversion. Well, we have these tools we can use called 12 steps that can get us there. Whether you're a believer of God or not a believer or whatever, something will happen to you. I know atheists and that something happens, but they know they've experienced something. And that's the thing what the Gnostic is. And that's where we want to be. And it's knowing God, it is, experiencing God and understanding it. And that's the aspect of it. We want to keep moving forward. And the more I know God, not because I know about God, it's because I know God. It's how do you learn to ride a bike? You make conscious contact with the bicycle. You have to experience it. Trying to find where I want to go in the book real quick. And then have anything laid out. Give me a second. Let's go to page 45. Lack of power. That was our dilemma. So lack means zero, right? If if John owes me, if I owe John $50 and I go up to him and I go, here's 10, that's not lacking. Lacking means zero. It would be, no, I don't have the money. I lack power. I thought it was lack of friends, lack of money, lack of the right car, the right house, the right people. And I pursued that stuff, but that's an outer journey. An insane mind will always try to find everything where? Outside themselves. They always seek outside themselves. Since we had to find a power in which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how do we find this power? So now we're going to look into location and method, right? So obviously, where and how. Where would be the location and how would be the method. So to look at the how, let's go to page 25. So how do we find God? And a lot of, for myself, when I did this, I always said, oh, I'm separated from God. God didn't answer my prayers. And I suffered from an illusion of separation from God because I could never be separated. I'll get more into that in a minute. But we're on page 25. And if you look at the title of this chapter is called There is a Solution, not Solutions. And I always do the mathematical equation. 5 times 5 is 25. What's the solution? Well, a lot of people say 25. No, that's the problem. People will say 5 times 5, I mean, people say 5 times 5, that's the problem. People will say 25, that's the answer. Multiplication, 5 times 5, the X in the middle is the solution. So solution is a method we use to bring us to where? An answer. What's our solution? Let's see. So here's how. Almost none of us like the self-searching. That sounds like step 4. The self-searching is soul-searching, self-analysis, inventory. It's the deep examination of our thoughts, ideas, and actions. To what? What are we trying to do? We're trying to uncover what drove us to those thoughts and actions. And what does that lead to? Self-discovery, self-awareness, whole new, the third eye aspect. This is the leveling of pride. Now, I thought leveling meant like a leveler, like you even something out, because that's the easy way. The leveling means to demolish something, like a building, right? So that can be any 4 through 9, especially step 9. It's a big leveling of pride, but in 5. And that's and it says the confession of our shortcomings. What step is that? That would be 5. I mean, confession goes back thousands and thousands of years, and the only difference between step 5 and a confession is step 5 isn't a confession, because a confession is only who, like, let's say for resentment, who I resent and why I resent it. That third column, the instincts, makes this a whole different, it makes it not a confession, even though they're saying that, the confession of our shortcomings. And so I want to get rid of this wrong thinking, wrong actions that I want to keep hidden. Discover these defects. Look what it says. What's the process required for successful consummation? Many say that word consummation means the end to something. What it really means to achieve or complete a goal that was intended. So what's our goal of 4 and 5? To let God remove these defects of character, right? So discard, let God. It's all through his book talks about let God demonstrate to us what he can do. Right? 6 and 7 is the beginning of that successful consummation. And so I did 1 through 5 to have the ability to let this stuff go. And once we do that, we have to go out and repair what we've done to others. 8 and 9. So the method to bring us to the answer, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's the how. Uncover in 4, discard in 5. Uncover in 4, discover in 5, discard in 6 and 7, and repair in 8 and 9. And the question is, what methods have you tried? Where have you been looking for solutions? And that's the thing. I mean, I tried Buddhism and hardcore meditation and Christianity, yoga, therapy books, doctors, therapists, meetings, and more meetings. Well, they all, were great stuff, but none of them delivered. None of them took away that obsession I had. It trimmed the branches back. If you have a bush in front of your house you don't like, and you just say, I'll get to it later, and so we trim the bush back to make it look pretty. When's the bush gone? When we rip it out of the ground. And how do we do that? We have to get a shovel and dig deep down and get all the roots so the ugly tree never grows back. When I ran out of options, I did the last thing I wanted to do, 4 through 9. So the how is 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now let's talk about the location. Let's go to page 55. And I would put a smile on my face when I mention 55, because this is, to me, my favorite part of the book. I just adore this part, and it's powerful. Let's just go through it. Page 55. So let me give you a background of myself, and I'm not knocking anything with Catholicism or anything like that. I love it, but I grew up old school Catholic home, a Catholic school from 1st to 8th grade, church on Sunday, first communion, confirmation, baptized when I was like this big, altar boy, did it all. And I remember as a kid, I would wonder, what am I getting out of this when everyone else seemed they were? But my mother and my grandmother, my aunties, and all told me that if I didn't pray to God, I would go to hell. They also gave me this warning that God's always watching me, somewhere. If I did bad things, I get punished. I remember asking my father, questioning about Santa Claus and the Easter Bunny and all that stuff, and saying I don't believe it. Oh, okay, cool. Well, you're old enough now. And I said, well, on that God thing, and he just looked at me and he grabbed me by the arm and says, don't ever question God. And so I had this elementary kindergarten view of God sitting up in these clouds up in the sky, in this big throne, looking probably tough, with a long white beard, looking down on the world and passing judgment on mistakes I made. And as I grew older, in my teen years and older years, God was punishing and angry and unloving and judgmental, all that stuff. Didn't listen. And it's led me questioning the existence, the doubt. And the scary part is I'm 31 years old. And that was my conception. No wonder I didn't want to. No wonder I ran away from AA. No wonder I looked up on the wall my first day me at 20 years old, and I thought, oh, there's that word. And then they passed the basket around. That scared me because that seemed like church. And what I know today is that the child conception of a punishing God only breeds fear rather than the love experience from this all-loving God. See what the book says. Enough of me. Yet we've seen another kind of flight. It's spiritual liberation. That means freedom, spiritual freedom from this world. People who rose above their problems. How many of us want that? They said God made these things possible, and we only smiled. So some guy says, hey, God did this, and you smile at it. Later on in the book, after the awakening, it tells us we can laugh at those who think spirituality is weakness. It says, we had seen spiritual release, but like to tell ourselves it wasn't true. Actually, we're fooling ourselves. For deep down, every man, woman, and child is a fundamental idea of God. So fundamental means principle, or foundation is a better word, idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, drama, chaos, all that stuff, by pomp. Pomp's another word for pride. And that's what fear of what others think of me, the false pride. But by worshiping of other things, we know what we worship. you know, alcohol, drugs, whatever else. But in some form or another, it was there. For faith and the power greater than ourselves, miraculous demonstrations of that power in human life are facts as old as man himself. Yeah, I remember my mom reading stories of God's healing, you know, I just couldn't grasp it. It confused me, you know, it just confused me, you know. So I would say, I just piss people off. I would ask questions and say, you know, this God is healing and love, but then threatens to burn you in hell if you don't follow the rules. It just, you know, we finally saw that faith in some kind of God was a part of our makeup, just as much as feelings we have for a friend. My first sponsor asked me, what are your feelings? He goes, what do you look for in a friend? And I said, oh, someone, you know, all the cool stuff. Someone's got money, someone's got this, someone that likes to run. I go, no, no, no. What do you speak from the heart? And I'm like, loyalty, honesty, respect. And he started throwing things in like unconditional love, which I never even knew what it was, but he explained it to me. Someone who's always there, humble, open-minded, forgiving. And he looked at me and he goes, sounds like God to me. And I looked at him and I was like, that is foreign. So here's the condition to find God. Sometimes we had to search fiercely, but he was there. He was as much as fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. And the last analysis, it is only there where he may be found. It is so with us. What is the great reality? It's talking about God. That's why it's capitalized. So where is God within us? So the here is God is deep down within us. When I read this the first time, I read it, that God's within me, it shattered the child conception of God. It's like a window or something, or a vase falling on the ground. You can't put it back together again. It was shaken up. And Bill just explained God in one sentence. You know, I mean, we get guys in these suits that come to our door sometimes, and Mormons, and I always talk to them, but they take forever to explain God. Hours. Bill just did it in one sentence, you know. But I was willing to believe that, just willing, ready, that perhaps this could happen. You know, I was looking out here in the wrong place, you know, and that's just what I did. It'd be like looking for my keys outside my house, and I know they're in the house. I mean, I'm sorry, looking for my keys in the house where I know I dropped them outside. But I'm looking at the house because it's brighter out there in the house. Think about that. That's what we did, you know. And you know, rather than God being somewhere, you know, here, God's a portion of yourself. And you know, within every creature, there's a spirit that's, you know, it's been, I mean, I would say largely left unexplained, or even unlooked at or unexamined. So we become accustomed to taking the spirit for granted, because your main focus is on the physical world, and we're driven things by instincts like pride and stuff like that. Where's pride? Inside me. Where's self-esteem? Inside me. All these things are inside me. Money, you know, the material security, emotional security. I'm going to follow those things rather than, you know, you know what I mean? Like, you'd be doing bad stuff and something in your heart would be telling you, don't do this, but we only barely heard it, you know. But we took for granted because, you know, our main focus is so much on the physical world, the external world, you know, rather than within us, you know, leaving us like limited and restricted, you know. And instead of waiting for our instincts to be fulfilled, maybe we need to look inwardly and obtain the healing elements we need. The big question is, how do you go beyond beliefs and experience God? How do you know God? There's a very simple answer to that. The steps. That's it. The steps. And thanks to the steps, the spirit becomes the primary focus of your life. And if the cool thing about 4 through 9 is if you ever start to get up scared a little bit and you start getting frustrated, you can always recreate what happened within 4 to 9 step 10. So the steps are an inner journey to God, not an outer journey. And a journey that takes us, to our innermost self. And people always say, oh, I need to get closer to God. You always hear that at meetings. You know, people talk like that, a lot. How can you get closer to God than God being within you? Deep down within us, right here and now. Right here and now. Here's a promise in the next paragraph of God consciousness. God consciousness is the awareness of God or higher self or whatever you want to call it. So we can only clear the ground a bit if our testimony helps sweep away prejudice. That means old ideas. Think of your old ideas. Enables you to think honestly. Honesty is the definition of honesty I love the most is the awareness of where I'm at. Know where I'm at. Do I have resentments? Do I have fear? Do I have pride? Encourage you to search diligently. That means diligently means thoroughly. That was all of the book. Within yourself. How do we do that? 4 through 9. Then, if you wish, you can join us on the Broad Highway. Broad Highway is living in 10, 11, 12 while making my old amends. With this attitude, and that attitude is what? The willingness to always look within, honesty within. With this attitude, you cannot fail, never fail. The consciousness of your belief, the awareness of God, is sure to come to you. I started to realize I was more than this bag of dust that's this body. It must be something living me, and it catapulted me to decision and took action. And a person asked me a long time ago, what is life? And the definition, you usually hear earthly, our earthly existence to life from birth to death or something like that. And how about the one I loved, I heard from an old timer, was a spiritual form of eternal existence that transcends physical death. You can't kill life. The rivers flow for thousands of years. The same water flows through there today. It's not the same, that went through it yesterday. The life that it never ends. A person said one time, is there life after death? My question is there life before? That's what we want, just because this life's within us. I need to get away from the idea that God I was conditioned with as a child. Only steps can take you that far. And the God, I discovered it was all this action. Like kind of like the other stuff. I looked for it in alcohol, I looked for it in drugs, I looked for it in women, I looked for it in money, I looked for it everywhere. The last place I ever looked, I found it. So our outer world provides this very limited perspective of who and what we truly are. That's the power of this. It is, it was within life, within that awakening within is we're born again. And the hardest thing is to let this inner world run our outer world. Not everyone can do that. But once you've learned how to enter your inner world, we have the most amazing retreat place that is always available. And best of all, you can take it wherever you go. Anywhere you go. It's portable. And I needed to form a relationship with God to get to know God. And if you take a cup of water from the ocean and you put it on your shelf, right? Eventually, the water's like this much in the cup, let's just say, all the way to the top. It's going to get less, less, and less. When it gets to this much, it's not dead. You can take it back to the ocean and it'll regain all the power of its source. And we're the same way. We're the same way. And like the surface of the ocean, people just look at the surface. How do you know the beauty of the ocean? You put a scuba mask on and dive, you know. About my conception of God that was punishing and all that stuff like that. You know what? Here's the craziest thing. When I did my fifth step, my sponsor said to me, he sounds like, because he made me write all it down, what my conception of God was, all these different words. You know, it sounds like you're the one that's punishing, angry, unloving, judging, critical, demanding, hard to find. You know, I was always trying to fix things outside myself. I didn't listen. The God I resented and feared was me. You know, the idea, you know, all I did was take the characteristics of, you know, of the God I feared and lived it. This sounds insane. You know, it wasn't the God that made me, it made me run from divine help. So, you know, build an God in the image and likeness of myself. That I don't, where did it exist? Here. It's all the place that existed. And remember I talked about how my sponsor made me look for the feelings I have for a friend, right? The unconditional love and the loyalty, honest respect. And something amazing happened. When I started doing step 10, I realized, you know, that I I started to love others. I started to look for good in things. I started to have unconditional love, courage, forgiveness, calmness, open-mindedness, freedom. So this God was real because I was experiencing it, always there. I could talk to him, and you know, and he always, and the one thing I realized is God, this higher power loved me no matter what I ever did. I didn't have to question it. I mean, I don't even know if I needed to ask that question. So I did not achieve you know, a new understanding from studying it or reading about it, going to rehab 7 times, or all the therapy classes I went to, all the confessions I did. I was, you know, I was unaware of all that stuff because I never was, I, I, I never got to understand because I never opened my mind past where I was at, you know. Give me 1 second. I'm going to grab something from my shelf. All right. So some of you know what this is. It's an acorn. Kicking knows. She heard me do this before. It's an acorn. Now, the truth is, it's not an acorn. It's an oak tree. So this little acorn is the ultimate symbol of spiritual growth. It's also the symbol of transformation and change because it turns into something completely different than it was. Like I said, it's an oak tree. It's hard to believe that it can grow into this big monster, gigantic tree. It doesn't look anything like its creator. But once the acorn falls from the tree, a mysterious miracle takes place. It knows exactly where to find enough sunlight and might turn. It moves to get just enough water. Germination takes place, and you know the roots sprout, you know, sprout out and goes right to the best soil. That tells me that within this acorn is all the information it needs to survive. And then it turns into what it was encoded to be, the image and likeness of its creator. Are we different from this little acorn? We too have all the information we need to survive inside. So the symbol of the acorn is a miracle that's deep inside us all. I mean, it's kind of like the caterpillar goes into the cocoon and turns into something more beautiful. It turns in what's supposed to be. The embryo turns into a baby. None of these things fight it. The flower, you know, blooms effortlessly. They all turn in what they're coded to be, and the information is all inside of them. That's why when I see this, like this acorn, I don't see an acorn. I see an oak tree. The oak tree is within the acorn, just like God's within us all. So when I see you, any of you, I see God. So what the oak tree is to the acorn, God is to you. And we too can turn the image and likeness of our Creator. I mean, hypothetically, let's say you ask for a piece of pie. You ask an apple pie. I'm sorry, you ask a piece of apple pie. What are you? The apple pie says, "I am what I came. I am what I am. I came from apples." It's not going to say I came from a pineapple. You would expect it, to be what it came from. It's simple, right? But when anyone's asked, "What are you?" they think of their bones or their organs, and what am I? We don't understand that we too must be like what we came from. All we are is pieces of this spirit of the universe. That we are an infinite, unlimited kind of love that excludes no one. That's the power of it. Let's go to page 46. It says, as soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit universe, underlying totality of all things, we begin to be possessed, which means driven by something, and be possessed of a new sense of power and direction. New direction, new power. Pretty cool. Provided we took simple steps 4 through 9. We found that God does not make too hard turns for those who seek him. Now, this is his poetry side, or whoever wrote this part. It's beautiful. He's going to describe what the world of the spirit looks like. Sandy Beach used to say, what does the world of the spirit look like? He goes, here's one thing. If the world of the spirit's a room, anyone can enter. You just got to leave all your stuff at the door. You got to leave all your stuff at the door. Just like we do in 6 and 7, we leave all our stuff at the door before we can move on to the world of the spirit. Here's the world of the spirit. To us, the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, which means leaving no one out, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. Seeking is the key. It's open to believe to all. I'm not going to say men, everybody. It's telling me we have a spiritual resource that's beyond our ordinary power that can heal us if we do the work. Let's go over to page 47. And this is where I take Sponzi's take step 2. It says we needed, middle of the page, sorry. We needed to ask ourselves but one short question. Now, the shortest questions in this book are the most powerful ones, like 6 and 7. Are you ready to let God, here's a step 2 question. Do I now believe, or am I willing to believe, ready to believe that there's a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us upon the simple cornerstone, a wonderful, effective spiritual structure can be built. He started building in that in Bill's story. He mentioned the foundation, step 1. Now he's looking at the cornerstone, and anyone that's done construction knows that the first stone laid in the foundation, where 2 walls meet, links together to the foundations, forms the first part of a new building. That's the cornerstone. And so he's building this arch. It's like an upside down U. Very powerful spiritual structure. And he's going to build it throughout the book. Let's go to page, where do I want to go? 53. I can remember for a second. It says, when we became alcoholics, crushed by a self-imposed crisis. It wasn't your upbringing, because that, or what people did to you. It's not no one else's faults, God's fault. It's a self-imposed crisis. We could not postpone or evade. We had to fearlessly face the proposition that either God is everything or else he's nothing. God either is or isn't. What's our choice to be? Am I willing to make the choice that God is everything or God is nothing? There's no middle road there. We don't have a leg to stand on. I'm not putting a gun to our head and saying believe in God, but we come in here bleeding with an internal illness that's slowly killing us. Am I willing to make that choice? Let's go to page 28. No, I'm jumping around everywhere, but I'm coming close to the end here. I don't have this page in front of me, so I'm just going to read it. I think it's at the bottom. It's like one of my favorite parts. We in turn sought the same escape with the desperation of drowning men, saying, take to the steps of the drowning person. What seems a flimsy reed has proven to be the loving and powerful hand of God. A new life has been given to us, if you prefer a design of living that really works. So he's telling us we have a design of living. So there's questions I ask sponsees before I ask them that question on 47. I ask them, like, is a belief in God sufficient to overcome alcoholism? Did your ideas of God help you overcome alcoholism? Has human power worked? And I ask them, are you open-minded about finding power greater in yourself? Do you believe or willing to believe in a power greater in yourself? And I ask them one more question: are you willing to take the action to get there? The thing about it is, within all our inner core, there lies this gift that we're born with. And it's a gift that's closer to you than your own breath. Now, if someone would have said this to me 22 years ago or 24 years ago, I would have thought, what's this guy talking about? First, he mentioned the word God, and then he mentions she's getting the weird stuff. But that gift is closer to you than your own breath. And most people live in this insanity, delusion. Anything that's deluded is insane. That this gift is found outside of them. They have no idea this gift is buried within us. Hypothetically, if those who, I know everyone here has meditated, and so those who've done the steps, and we found that temple inside of us, and you try to envision, just close your eyes and envision what it looks like inside. If it were, how beautiful would it be? Right? It's got to be like one of the most perfect places you could absolutely imagine. Absolutely imagine. It would blow your mind. Right? It would blow your mind. Now go back. Where did you store all your resentments, all your fears, all your anger, all your harms? You stored in that same place. That's like taking the most beautiful room you can imagine and storing all your junk in it. Well, now we clean it up and we find, and then all of a sudden it becomes beautiful. The spiritual identity is within us all. That's the great reality. It's not that you are God, it's you have a piece of God inside of you. That's why we all feel it when we're together. Every spiritual tradition, we've seen that, that it's in all the spiritual traditions that there's a God inside of you. It's in all of them. One of my favorite quotes, Shakespeare, thy own self be true. all the, while the names might be different, it's all the same. It's waiting for you to experience, waiting for experience. Just miracles manifesting inside of you. It lets me, see where I'm weak. It gives me the guidance. It tells me I'm strong. It opens the doors I didn't want to open before. It makes me trust what happens. The message of of this inner life is, first you must locate it, then you must seek it, and then you must find. Seeking you shall find. You know, and then you find out, I have compassion, I have strength, I have forgiveness, I have kindness, love. I mean, it was there. You know, a friend of mine said it really, really good. It says, when I close my eyes, I see it. When I silence my mind, I hear it. When I still my body, I know it. And all I know is that the eyes which I see God are the same which God sees me. My eyes and God's eyes are one. And that's what happens to us. You know, that's the beauty of this, you know. And it all started with being willing to believe in the power greater than myself and taking action. Thanks for letting me share with you guys today.